Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Saturday. It's the weekend. I mean, we need to give ourselves a gold star and pat ourselves on the back because it's been a week. I'm Claire Jones, and I'm a queer fantasy romance author, as well as a small publisher that supports other writers in getting their works featured in the world. We are jumping on for my Marketing as Authors Facebook Live series, where I interview the amazing and inspiring authors in my network to discuss the marketing strategies that have propelled our writing careers forward in meaningful ways, hopefully meaningful ways. If you're joining us, please like, share, comment below. Let us know that you're here. And today I'm talking to Elle. So glad to see you.
Hi, thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, I see you ships passing in the night on TikTok. So I'm like, all right, let's get her on a podcast.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. And you are episode one of this new series.
Oh my,
So round of
so
applause
exciting.
for that one. Well, new season. Did I say series? It's been a while. It's been a
Yeah,
week.
has been.
So first, let's get a rundown of your books. What are they? How many? And what do you have planned going forward?
Well, first, I'm a morally gray paranormal romance author, which means that all of my characters in all of my books really operate on that morally gray scale. My demons, my angels, my fae, my assassins, they all just kind of operate on this very thin morally gray line.
We
That's
love a morally
sometimes
gray hero.
right. And it veers towards the dark sometimes. At the moment, am really enjoying the success of my Princess of Sin Omnibus, which is the culmination of the Seven Deadly Sins series that I rapid released last year. And I'll just hold it up because
Beautiful. We love a
it
thick
is
book.
gorgeous.
We love a
And
thick book.
it has
Oh
all
my
these
God.
gorgeous pages.
Wow.
Special edition, very, very fun. I've had a little bit of hard time with the printing process, but we
I can
have
imagine.
worked out all the kinks. Um, and I'm very excited.
The kinks.
Yeah, the kinks. So yeah, I have just been doing that. This year I am working on a very exciting and fun co-author project with my bestie and wifey, AK Mulford. And that's going to come out sometime in September. I can't
Mm,
give away too many details, but I think everyone's going to really love it. And then I have audiobooks coming. I do all of
awesome.
the editing and producing and engineering behind the three incredible voice narrators that I have for the duet slash full cast audiobooks. So there's
Yeah.
going to be all seven of those. And at the end, I have a little surprise for like an audiobook omnibus with some bonus content.
Mm.
And that'll come out sometime, hopefully in the next few months.
So it sounds like 8 books total written plus audio if you count audio.
Well, okay, so overall I have two series. One is the Black Banner series, which is a trilogy that I'm finishing up next year. That was my first series and it really needs a really good facelift. So I
Mm,
don't push it as often, but it's
mm.
there. But I also have Blood on My Name, which is sort of the prequel to the Seven Deadly Sins series, which is all seven books. So altogether I have, was that like 10? And then also at the moment, I've participated in the Lovesick anthology with Molly Doyle and Harper Ashley and Cam Ringer, Eden Knox. There's a few of us in there, and so we all did a really fun LGBTQIA uh, anthology back in
Awesome.
February, and that's still available. So
Love it.
yeah.
Love it. I mean, I love a good backlist.
I'm trying. I will say, yeah. So next year we'll be looking at five new books. No series. They're actually all standalones, and I'm
Mm,
really excited about them because
wow.
I had all these like ideas in my head, and some of them are actually like contemporary morally gray, and some of
Mm,
them are back to my roots, but they're a little darker gray.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really excited for next year.
So how quick is your turnaround for a manuscript?
Uh, it depends. So the Seven Deadly Sins last year was rapid released, and I was basically writing those up until, 2 weeks before they were coming out. I had some, life stuff going on. So,
Mm,
between health things and social things, it was really hard to give myself time. So this year I really wanted to sit back, enjoy the writing process. And so, I'm spending this entire year writing and giving myself plenty of time to go back and tweak where I want to, and giving my editor plenty of time to edit it because she's been stressed.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so this year is going to be a lot different from the previous years. Previously, it's been like, okay, here it is, let's do this. Where this year it's going to be, oh, I have like months in between.
yeah, yeah. I've started on that schedule for my book this year. Like I have a good 3 to 4 months between end of editing to release. And I'm like, wow, I can actually promote properly this time
Yes.
around.
Yeah, I have a lot of really exciting things that I'm planning on promoting a couple of the books with. There's two in particular that I have PR boxes. Like I'm collecting things for PR
Mm,
for two of the titles, and I just think that they're just going to be so much fun. I love
yeah.
doing PR boxes, but it's really hard to do them if it's not like the first in a series.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. So let's back up a little bit and talk about what led you to a writing career. What was the path to get you there? What past experiences supported this career for you?
So, like all authors, right? I've always wanted to be a writer. But I always loved telling stories. And actually, I went to school primarily for like the medical field. I changed my major really often, ADHD.
Mm,
Couldn't decide what I wanted to do. I was a certified nursing assistant for several years. And then I, did some med pass stuff. And then I was actually going to school to attempt to get into a nursing program um, while I was writing my first full length book.
mm,
I've always like had stories bouncing around in my head and tried here and there for NaNoWriMo through the years.
mm.
Never was actually never successful. Um, I had a, short story blog for a long time that I really enjoyed doing, and thank goodness took down because that was embarrassing. But
I mean, we all have those blogs, right?
we all had them, right? Like I think everyone at some point was like, I just want people to see what I'm doing.
Yeah,
Uh,
I remember the Zanga and LiveJournal days.
yes, right.
Mhm.
So during the, late 2019, early 2020 lockdown, I had started nursing or pre-nursing classes and was just about to um, apply to the nursing program when I finished my first book, Under the Black Banners. And I was just really like hoping I wasn't going to get into the nursing program. I had done all that work, and I had, I knew that if it was meant to be, it was meant to be. And if I got in, that would be great. And I'd be able to fund a nursing or a authoring career through my nursing program, nursing. But the nursing program itself any nurse knows that it takes over your entire life. And I have
Yeah.
two kiddos, and it was just, it was a dream that I definitely could live without.
Mm,
But writing books was not. And so
mm,
I published Under the Black Banners and very quickly turned around Dagger of Ash and Gold, the second in the series, and then Blood on My Name just took over my life. And
mm,
that I just never looked back after that. It was just
mm.
like, I was like, this is it.
Did you have the like second book slump that so many authors
Yeah.
have? I hear a lot about that. So tell me what yours was like.
I think a lot of it was that I was unsure. I was a very green author. I didn't understand the momentum behind your first book needing to lead into your second book.
Mm,
And I think no matter what was going to happen, that first book, A, was my, first book. It was not really edited up to par with the second book. And I
mm,
think that really led to it. So, when I had a new editor for the second book, and I had already started writing Blood on My Name. And I was like, you know what? I feel like this is the book I need to focus on. It's a new book in a series. It's probably the book that people will know me as for a while.
Mm,
And I think that's what I need to like refocus my energy on, which is why there isn't a third book in the Black Banner series at the
mm,
moment. And it was also like really fun for me because I absolutely have loved school. I have more credits than most doctoral candidates because I love learning and I love the research
yeah.
process. And I really went deep into demonology research and occult
Mm,
research and the metaphysical research that went behind these demons, and it really just took over my life. So I did a lot more market research and I learned a lot and took everything I learned from the first two books and put it into Blood on My Name. And that's really what kind of kicked off my career. Like as much
mm-hmm,
as I love the first series, Blood on My Name is really my truly first
mm,
successful book.
mm. Hmm. I feel that way about my first book at the moment. I'm
Right?
actually thinking about doing some updates. Like you said, facelift earlier. I was like, that's a
Yeah.
very apt term for
Yeah.
it. Like, I actually think I'm going to do that right now. I'm going through the editing process for book three.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, while my editor's cooking, doing her thing, I think I'm going to revisit one and see if I can
Oh
spruce
yeah.
it up a bit.
I'm doing a whole revise. My editor is going to edit it. That's the first time she's seeing it, so she's going to edit it for me. And then I even had, and one of my biggest issues was the covers. I
Mm,
absolutely loved the first cover. The second cover, I went with a different designer because there were some issues timing wise with the first
mm,
designer. And I didn't really love it. And so I was like, okay, I don't know what to do with the third cover. And I did get one done, but I really didn't love it. And it was actually up on pre-order because I intended to get it out uh right after Blood of My Name came out, but it just did not work out. And luckily I was able to cancel it and it was fine. But um I actually hired a illustrator to do a whole cover reset of
mm.
the entire series.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of using this as like a relaunch strategy. It's getting
Mm.
re-edited. They're getting all new covers. There's going to be some special edition stuff in there. And then I can kind of just like market the entire series as a full finished series. And here it is. You've never seen it before. Look how new and shiny it is.
Yeah, yeah. I was just looking up because I think Shannon, the one who did Priory of the Orange Tree, do you
Mhm.
remember her
Yeah.
name? She's
Yeah.
actually redoing, I'm trying to look up her name real fast. I know it's Shannon something or other. Samantha
Mhm.
Shannon.
There we go.
She did a series a while ago that was more like London supernatural psychic abilities series, and it was a good 5 book series. And she literally wrote it 10 years ago, and she's now relaunching it again
Yeah.
using the new updated versions that she's able to write. And I think your story, our stories, her story is also just great fodder and inspiration for other people out there to be like, no, we can go back and change things. Like it's not
Yeah.
set in stone.
Yeah. And I think a little bit of the hesitation is that, well, people have read it and that, but you know what, people forget.
Yes.
No one's going to fault you. I mean, unless you're going to go back through and like completely change the entire story around, I doubt that anyone's going to get any you know, smoke up their booty about it. But like I I I know for a fact that on my end, like I've seen the sales numbers, I've seen all that. Like I know
Mm,
that when I relaunch it, it'll be much better,
yeah.
especially with the popularity of my other series and
Hmm.
my other projects. So
Yeah. Because I think that tendency towards perfectionism stops so many people in their tracks.
yeah.
When really I'm an advocate of the imperfect action over perfect inaction kind
Hmm.
of approach. Like, let's just get it out in the world, like product test it, consumer test it, see what kind of feedback we can get, and then optimize. It's like that minimum viable product.
Yeah. And I think, it does stop people because they want I think sometimes they just don't want to admit to a bad
Mm,
book. right?
Absolutely.
But I think it's like it's very human to grow, right? Like every single one of our books is going to be better than the last.
Yes.
We hope, right? And so I don't think it's terrible to go back to your old things, especially because like those stories are part of you and you
Mm,
put a lot of time and effort and money into them, so you may as well, right, optimize them, get them out there up to snuff for the rest of your books. And I mean, backlist is a backlist. Even if it's not your
mhm.
most popular, I think it's still worth updating to like your current standard so that going forward you don't have those like little voices in the back of your head saying, "Oh, you have that one book that's not great."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What really inspired me too when I was looking into big authors' backlists is Jennifer Armentrout's. I don't know if you've ever
Oh yeah.
delved into her backlist, but she had like a urban fantasy Lux series back in the day, and it is really not up to snuff to what
No.
she's writing nowadays. And I was like, that's kind of like hashtag inspo, honestly.
And it should be. And I think, I believe she was indie for a while and those were indie pub.
I think so, yeah.
And
Well,
I
I
think,
think I can tell by just the covers alone.
right. And so I think like that's a little bit of a like an advantage that we have as indies. Like we get
Absolutely.
to go back, we get to do those things, we get to republish stuff. We don't have to convince someone that we're worth it and those books
Mm,
are worth it because of sale numbers. So I think, it's nice to like take advantage of that when you can.
hmm hmm So what was the shift between Blood on My Name and Princes of Sin?
That was instantaneous. So Blood on My Name introduces a few of the princes. We are introduced to Citri and Ipos, and Citri would not leave me alone. It was the end of his book, and there was just this chemistry, this fire that I could not ignore, and I just didn't want to move on yet. I was like, you know what would be so great? Like I've already said that he is the Prince of Lust, and we already know who the Prince of Pride is. So like let's just keep rolling with this. And so,
Mm,
I had added in a couple extra tidbits here and there about the some of the other princes. And so, of course, Citri kicked off the series with Prince of Lust. And then I introduced Prince of Greed, who is Stalis, and Prince of Sloth, who is Gop. And he's my rock star romance, and he's just so fabulous. And then we get to revisit Prince of Pride,
mm.
who's Ipos, and followed by Prince of Gluttony, who is a Robus, and he is a lot, as he should be.
I mean,
And
yeah.
yeah, and then we ended with Envy and Wrath, which I mean, that's just like a 1-2 combo. You can't.
Mm,
You know.
hmm
So yeah,
Yeah.
I have some plans to maybe play with that world, not next year, but the year after.
Mm.
Because us authors, we have to like plan our checks 3 years in advance.
Yeah, I got a list. I got a
You
list.
got a list. But yeah, after the sins, I really wanted to like take a minute with some projects that I had been playing with in the back of my head while I was writing these 7 books and rapid releasing them. So I didn't get to write anything else for an entire year. It was just this.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, so after the sins, I was really ready to dive into some new worlds, into some new heads, and
Hmm
yeah, I'm just really excited for all the things that are coming.
What sparked your interest in just the sins in general? Like, where did that interest come from?
You know what? So funny. I'm not religious at all.
Yeah.
I am not a religious person, which is funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you must have like a lot of like religious trauma." No, I actually don't have any. I wasn't raised in any
Capital
sort of.
R, capital T.
Yeah, I was like, sorry. Um, so I really have just always loved the one story I was ever told as a child was the story of Lilith, which
Hmm.
is should give you a really interesting introspective me as a person and
I
the way
mean,
I was
dark
raised,
romance. I mean,
right? That really solidified my taste in anything. And so anyway, I really loved that story growing up, and it to me was a like feminist empowerment story.
mm,
And so when I have always just really loved mythology in general, like, we
Yeah.
all went through like the Greek and Roman mythology, but
Yeah.
when it came to like Christian mythology, I wasn't uh really knowledgeable about it. And so like
Mm,
diving in from the aspect from the demonology side of it
yeah.
really was so fun and interesting because, I feel like a lot of people assume that demons are like awful and terrible and they're
Yeah.
ugly and gross, but actually like when you research them, it's really funny to see the um like this juxtaposition of that idea, but of the time that they were being written about, there are these qualities that like the church didn't want in people, right?
Exactly.
Right. And so like IPOS is my favorite example where his like kind of superpower or whatever is to make men witty and bold,
Mm,
and he's a great seer, so he can like see the future, and he inspires men to be witty and bold, and it's just so funny that that is what the higher hierarchy didn't want
yeah.
in their people. And so it really like set fire to this idea of maybe demons aren't what everyone has thought they've been. And
Yeah.
it really helped that like Lucifer the TV show was like around,
Mm,
which I liked. It was fine, but the research wasn't right.
yeah. I mean, it rarely is, right?
It rarely is. And I watched Dogma so much as a kid.
Oh, that was a good one.
It
Mm,
was so good. Also, the research is not right there.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Well,
but it was so good. And I always loved that like modernized mythology,
yeah, absolutely.
and so yeah, that really like sparked it just really is just the way my brain works of I may not like I'm not a spiritual person. I may not believe in these things, but they're so fascinating.
Hmm.
And I've always just loved like the psychology behind the socialness of religions and society and like all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like all
Yeah.
religions, not just Christianity. And so yeah, I kind of took all of my fascination and did my deep dive of these demons and fell in love with them and made them to these sexy, morally gray men. And
I love that. I mean, because like you said, the whole idea of demons is literally just demonization of human qualities,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I think that that's why morally great characters are so compelling to
yeah,
us as readers, as consumers, because it's funny, I'm looking at all the panels that are being proposed for what's the Hugo Awards Worldcon
yeah.
that's
Hmm.
coming up in Glasgow, and there's a morally gray panel that I've put my name in for about like why those characters are so compelling over time. And I think it's really because it speaks to those aspects of ourselves that do get demonized,
Yeah,
and they almost become more relatable as
yeah,
readers because it's not like the shiny knight who has no flaws.
yeah.
We relate more to the morally gray knight who has maybe more flaws than
And I think, and this whole, and very recently, I think we've seen a big shift in that sort of mentality in the media as well, where we had, it was always like the morally high ground,
yeah,
Jedis, right? They were always
yeah,
like, those are the heroes. You
yeah,
could never save one person over the world. But
yeah.
now we can very much, and I think that also I have a lot of weird theories about this.
Tell me, I'm down
Um,
for weird theories.
I really think that like, this new expression of being able to accept people's dark bits
Yeah,
into who they are as a person and understanding like the nuance of personalities and morals outside of like the superhero Superman kind of thing,
yeah,
really just shows that you know, maybe at some point, maybe the government or, whatever really wanted to portray this all for one spirit, but we're
mm,
all kind of like waking up and realizing that that's not what's going
yeah.
to make us all happy and not these burnt out, crispy creatures that just want to like crawl into bed for 2 days out of our week,
Bed rotting, yeah. Hmm.
right? And so I really feel like very often we are now seeing this shift of love interests and heroes and, you know, morally gray to black bad boys that,
Yeah.
they technically become the hero or
Yeah.
the anti-hero or whatever, so that we don't have to just constantly look for a savior. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I actually did my undergraduate thesis on how contemporary art is becoming more accepting of the imperfect human body. And
Hmm.
I think it's part of this movement of accepting nuance as a
Yeah.
society, like whether it's in character morals or body types or belief systems, sexualities, gender expression.
Yeah.
We are more open to accepting the wide range of nuance that is out there in the world and grappling with what happens when there is conflict between nuances out
Yeah.
there.
I love that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I think about my thesis all the time. That's my Roman Empire.
I love it so much.
So, what has the reception been like?
Really great. I think I really struggled for a while because I was rapid releasing, and rapid releasing is hard.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I didn't sleep. I didn't function. I felt like I kind of lost a whole year of my life, like
Yeah.
producing these books. Um, but it really paid off when I put them all together. And I knew I wanted to do this, and I knew I wanted them all in one set, and I wanted them to be gorgeous. And
Mm,
that this version caught people's attention. And I mean, how could you not, right?
yeah.
And so ever since this book came out in January, I have seen a huge uptick in interest and followers and just all the good things, because I think we all write good books,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But when it comes to marketing, we all have our flaws. You could be the best marketer ever, but if
Hmm.
if you don't have a good book, then you're not going to be able to go very far. um,
Yep, yep,
but the same, you could have a really good book but not be able to market it,
yep.
and you're not going to go very far. So
I'd honestly rather have the latter problem than the former problem.
yeah, right. Same. So I really think that the reception now is much more overwhelming than when the books were coming out. I get messages every single day about how great the characters are, how they can't wait for the audiobooks, or they can't wait for to get the next installment of whatever I'm doing, because I grabbed people's attention. And yeah, it's been great. It's been a little overwhelming, especially this last week. I unfortunately heard about a misprint within the text, and so I had to take the book down and
Mm,
fix it, because I was like, okay, I can't keep, like, I don't want anyone else getting this bad version. And so
yeah,
I took it down, fixed it, and made sure everyone that in the capacity that I could, made sure everyone knew about it.
yeah.
Um, and I got a lot of messages actually when it got taken down.
I can imagine.
Yeah, people were not happy with me. They were like, I was just about to buy it. I'm like, well, I'm glad you didn't.
Yeah,
And you wait like a day. And it was.
yeah,
It was up within the next, it's been up now for 24 hours, and it went right back up to people buying it and like super excited about it. So
great. Walk me through the printing process because to do full color like that is insane.
it is insane. I had an amazing formatter, my friend Aiden Perry, who is also an author and just one of the sweetest human beings I've ever met. Um, and she helped me with the formatting, and we sent it through Amazon.
Hmm.
I don't recommend.
Yeah,
People ask me all the time, and I'm really reluctant to tell them that I just put it on Amazon, because they have not done well with
yeah.
it.
I
They
wouldn't expect them to with that type of printing quality. Mm-mm.
No, it has been hard, but I have found a bulk printer who I don't want to necessarily shout out yet, because I haven't gotten them in my hands to be like, yes, I found the solution.
Yeah,
But from the experience that I've had ordering them and like going through the process of bulk buying them, and when I say bulk, I mean like 500 copies at a time.
yeah, that's a
Um,
significant chunk.
it is a lot. And so, but going through the process has been much more it feels so much safer. It feels so much like they care. They don't want
Mm,
to hear from me saying that, the pages are off or there's like white lines on the side or, whatever. They don't want to hear that from me. They want to produce a good product and give it to me and me be very, very happy and tell all of my author friends who also want to bulk buy their special editions from them.
absolutely. Yeah.
So eventually
So like slide me their name, after
yes,
this is over, please.
I will, and I will definitely shout their names from the rooftops. But they are a bulk, like you do have to order in bulk. 500 is their minimum. You can't
Do
order any.
they ship and fulfill?
No, I will have to do all the shipping, but I don't
Mm,
mind because I had a small shop for a while. So shipping things isn't really like a big thing to me. I have like I have a little thermal printer and
mm.
I have a huge box of 600 bubble mailers and we're just gonna have at it.
Yeah, I've got a 10-pound box of crinkle paper sitting over here.
So, you become your own production line, but
Yeah.
it's worth it. Just to be able to sign them all and give these little gifts, like I have my little thank you notes and my little like, hey, welcome to my Patreon, if you want to check out my Patreon, here's a free episode of this thing. And so yeah, I mean, I get to put a little pen in there because everyone loves my pens because they're great pens from pens.com if anyone needs a
Oh,
pen.
wow. Those are sexy pens.
They're good pens. They're like
Huh.
everyone tells me they're their favorite pens. And
All
stickers. I
right.
can put stickers in there.
Well, how have you approached these marketing aspects? Have you had a strategy? What has worked? What hasn't?
Yeah, so I like to think of myself as a tinkerer. I like to test things out. I at one point took like a email marketing course that was not great. Um,
Mm,
and
we've
so
all
I'm
been there.
very, haven't we all? We've all spent money where we didn't need to.
Yeah.
Um, so I took an email marketing course and wasn't happy, wasn't thrilled. I don't believe email marketing is for me. I tried it for a long time. I didn't see any movement. It
Mm.
didn't vibe with me, which is fine.
That's interesting because so many people are like email lists, especially for authors.
Especially for authors. But you know what I find my readers specifically,
Mm,
they want to hear from me via TikTok. They want to hear from me via Instagram. Um, they don't open their emails.
okay, what's your demographics then?
My demographics are typically like paranormal romance that veers into contemporary dark
Mm,
romance.
okay.
It's like a weird conversion of these two, and I also think that it's the age, like I'm really good with like millennials and
Mm,
older.
okay.
The younger crowd is sort of starting to like know me. I think my youngest reader to date that has contacted me has been like 18,
Okay. All right.
right? Which has been like great because I don't want anyone younger than
Yeah, I mean that's
that
kind of the
age.
cutoff age, right?
That's the cutoff age. But also like I like before that it was 24.
Mm,
That was like the youngest. Anytime someone's, been like, oh yeah, they're not necessarily like my age. I'm 32, 33. I'm 33. And so, they are younger than me, but typically it's like my age, right? Like we're
mm,
millennials, we like the same stuff. We were raised on Buffy and Charmed and
yes.
right. And so,
Yes.
and that's my demographic, right? Like those are my people and they don't answer emails. We don't even answer our phones. Like,
That's so fascinating because you would think for like, I mean, we're older demographics now. Let's just put it out
we
there.
are
We're in the
older.
older, like everyone wants to market to us because we're the largest generation anyway, but that
Yeah.
that put that to the side. And people always are like emails for these older demographics, but you're saying TikTok and Instagram.
TikTok and Instagram for sure. And I think that has to do with like we get so many emails. I don't know about you.
So many.
I don't open my emails.
No, I try to get off so many lists. I'm like,
Right.
please don't.
I'm constantly unsubscribing.
Yeah.
And I very rarely sign up for anyone's newsletter unless they're my friend and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like obsessed with their work. Trisha Wolf is one of those. Like
Mm.
I'm not saying that we're friends.
I
I,
mean,
I
Katie Roberts is one where I'm just like, yes, I'm on your newsletter
yeah.
for infinity and beyond.
Exactly, right? And so but we're very picky and choosy, and I think it's really hard to there's too many of us. Our, romance in general is oversaturated. We all
Mm,
know that, especially with like the boom of pandemic writers,
mm,
And I think so many 10 years ago, 5 years ago, yes, email marketing was a thing. And those,
interesting.
those are the people who are pushing it so hard, is those who have successfully started and maintained a career through their email marketing. But
Mm,
as me as a newer author, I just have not seen on, my end with doing like swaps and doing like
yeah.
list builders and giveaways and all these things. My list is massive technically, like compared to some other authors who've been doing this around the same time, because I did all of these email marketing strategies. I
Mm-hmm.
have a very big list, but the reception rate is so low that
Mm,
it just doesn't feel worth it to me. Um, and I did all the things and those what everyone tells you to do. And I was just like, this isn't for me. But what is for me is a master list where I can technically email someone when I have something that they can interact with. When it's like, hey, I
okay.
have these graphics if you want to post them. Do you need content? Here, I'll give you content and you can post these things. And that has worked out pretty well. I've only been doing it for a couple months, and I feel like, the excitement is still there, right? It
Mm,
hasn't worn off yet. But the list builds all the time because people, want to feel like they're important to your marketing strategy. They want to help promote someone that they really enjoy, but if you don't give them like a direction of how to do that, how to do
interesting.
it. Um, and also like what I promote with my master list too, which I'm sure people could do with like their email list, um, is that it's like you won't hear from me unless I have like literally something to give you.
Interesting.
Right? It's like, don't worry, you're not going to get like an email every week or every other week or once a month. It's only going to be when I have an arc, when I have an audiobook arc, when I have graphics so that you can do something with them.
Huh.
Um, and so that's kind of been like my strategy of late, and I feel like it's gaining momentum, and it's a much shorter list compared to my email list, but it's more powerful.
Is it two figures, three figures? Like how big of a list is that?
So my master list is just over 150 people, but my email list for my regular newsletter is over 3,000.
Mm, okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's almost brand ambassadorship, right?
it is. That's exactly what I was thinking because I used to have brand ambassadors as a small shop. And those were the people that were constantly, going to bat for me. And that's
Yeah.
what the environment that I really wanted to bring. And maybe, it could just be me as a person that I was just like, I kind of don't like newsletters. So
I
I
mean,
don't really,
same.
like, and all my newsletters, I tried really hard to make them as interesting as possible, but they just weren't getting opened. So
Mm,
I decided to pivot. We all got to pivot, right?
mm. Yeah, I mean, that's the word of 2020. It's now 4 years old though now.
Yeah, pivot.
Um, that's fascinating. Do you find the same sort of level of brand ambassadorship on social media, or is that exclusive to the master list?
Well, they're connected. So, anyone that has found my master list found it on social media.
Mm, okay. Is
So,
that type is what do you do for social media content specifically?
so my Instagram is typically, graphics and reviews. My PA does my Instagram stuff.
Okay.
I'll like post stuff every once in a while if I'm out at a coffee shop and I'm writing, or if I have just some kind of random um like my phone took this photo
Mm-hmm.
moment.
Mm-hmm.
But typically my PA does all my graphics, and we kind of do like a monthly check-in of where I want things to go, what kind of announcements I have, what I'm trying to push, that kind of stuff. And often it's a like a mixture of like what's new on my Patreon, what kind of new art do I have? And Rebecca F. Kenny recently got into my head. I doubt she knows that she did, but she got into my head because I love character art and I get character
Mm,
art done all the time. The Sins actually have not safe for work art on my
Mm,
Patreon.
mm,
Um, and so, Rebecca F. Kenny was like, hey, like, I don't actually pay for marketing. What I do is I pay for art. And I was like,
interesting.
I love art. Like, I'll pay for art. Like, hell yeah. So yeah, I kind of
Huh.
took that bit of advice, and that's like, so I have a lot of art going on. I have a specific artist for my not safe for work, and I have another specific artist who's doing um art for each couple in my Game Over series, which is 14 couples. Um, and so I've already released one, and the second one's going to be released early next month. So like it's really, it feels more exclusive to be like, I can send the master list like a sneak preview and
Mm,
be like, oh, if you want to see it, I'll let you see it.
yeah.
But don't share it. So here's what you can share to like, show the masses.
Interesting. So instead of ad spend, it's art spend.
Yes. Which
Huh.
I have done some ads, and I think that Amazon ads, if done right, can do really well. I've done some ads that have done terribly,
Yeah, we've
but
all been there.
right, we had to learn how to do it. And I tried
Mm,
really hard to find an ads class, but the one I was planning on taking turned out to be like $1,000 all of a sudden. And I was
mm.
like, okay. I don't know if I'll make up that money quick enough for me to like feel like that's that's worth it.
Yeah.
Um, so I just started tinkering, and the last ads that I've been using have actually done really well. They've actually made money for once, and I was like super excited, like, oh my God, I figured it out. So yeah, I do some ads. Um, I don't do ads on social media because I have this like really like tin hat theory that if you do ads on social media, they'll just tank your views.
There's some evidence to
There's
support that.
I I think so. I've heard people like really be like, no, that's not a thing. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, I'm running an experiment for myself at the moment to see if that holds true or not.
Right? And social, especially TikTok is so like back and forth. You just never know. Like even the
Hmm.
TikTok shop, I do have a TikTok shop, which does really well or was doing very well, but this week, thank you, Mercury, um, has not been doing well. And a little bit of that is that I was sick for a while and wasn't able to like post at all.
Mm.
And I've had a lot of issues with my printer. And so, I'm really hoping that that bounces back. But that also has been a huge marketing tool for me because even
Mm.
if people aren't buying from the shop, they're seeing the book. And like when a video does really well on TikTok shop, and even though there's a link to the actual shop to buy it directly from me, they very often will go to Amazon and just buy it from Amazon.
Interesting. I mean, I've been recommending TikTok Shop to people just for the views alone.
Yeah.
Like whether or not it actually translates to specifically TikTok Shop sales or
Mhm.
not isn't really the point.
I agree with that. I actually don't recommend TikTok shop because it's so stressful.
It is stressful. Like the turnaround for that kind of stuff is
It's insane. You can't, you have to have things on hand. And if you don't,
exactly. Yeah.
then your views tank. You can't like,
And
there's
goodness
nothing.
forbid you like forget to look at your phone for a day.
Oh yeah, then you get yelled at like you have 24 hours to send this thing. And I know that that's not true. Like people tell me that all the time like, "Oh, well you technically have a certain amount of time. Like there's a date on each order that it has to be shipped by." But they
Hmm.
will yell at you like 3 times a day that it has to be shipped within 24 hours. And that's so stressful.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I actually don't recommend TikTok Shop because of the mental health factor.
Yes.
But if you are solid in your mental health and you don't have phone anxiety, go for it. Do you.
I want to pause on the mental health thing a little bit too, because with the increase of followers, there tends to be an increase of anxiety, an
Mhm.
increase of burnout. Is that something you've seen?
I have seen it with my friends so often. I have a very specific friend who we started around the same time, and they were like, "Oh, I love interacting with people, and I love interacting with all of my friends, and all of my followers are my friends," and they're very like personable. Um,
Mm,
and then they had a video go viral, and they basically just shut down. It was like, "Nope, I'm not talking to anybody ever again." And I was like, "Yeah, man, like it feels really good when you're finally getting recognized and when you're finally like seeing your journey take flight." But yeah, the mean messages really suck. I actually had a message the other day when I announced that I had taken the omnibus down for repairs, right?
mm,
I had someone come in real hot in my DMs,
mm.
like, it was really mean of me to not give more warning. Um, that I was a terrible person for dangling the omnibus in front of everyone for months and then just
Wow.
taking it away out of nowhere. They told me that I was selfish for basically like saying that the omnibus would never be taken off of Amazon. And because that was the thing, everyone was like, "How long is it going to be on Amazon?" I was like, "Forever. Like, I don't care. Like, it can live
Mm,
there forever." But it's not going to be signed, and you're only going to get like the signed fun stuff from me. So,
mm,
but it's always on Amazon. But because I had to take it down to fix it, they did not appreciate that, and they, basically told me I was selfish and
mm,
I was a liar and all this kind of stuff.
mm.
And I was like, "I'm very sorry. I'm sorry you feel this way. It will be up like literally in like tomorrow." So they didn't like that. They blocked me after that, which is fine.
Interesting.
Yeah. People are mean. People on the internet are not always nice. But I have,
Very true.
on the contrast, have so many very sweet, caring, appreciative, uh patient followers and friends and readers on all platforms that are just, they're why I continue.
The good has to outweigh the bad, right?
Yeah,
At a
for sure.
certain point.
Yeah.
So, what tips do you have for our audiences after all of these lessons, after all of these successes and failures? What would you?
My biggest one is operate as a business.
Mm,
You are not just an author. If
yeah,
it doesn't matter what path you've chosen. You are a business.
yeah.
Whether you're traditionally published or indie published or hybrid or, indie house published, whatever, you are a business and you have to operate as such. Things don't always go the way you plan them to, and you have to be able to recognize that, not take offense to it, and act with kindness and not hostility.
Mm,
I think that is a really important thing that I want a lot of authors to realize, because so often we take mean comments very personally,
mm,
but they're not, even if it is like a super personal attack, you're a business. You
yeah.
cannot act personally to that. You kind of have to be like, okay, let it run off your back, because that one person's really mean comment or terrible review or whatever is not going to sink your ship. If
Mm,
if that person's, $5 from royalties is enough to sink your entire business, then your business wasn't stable enough to begin with.
mm-hmm.
So you really have to roll with the punches. Um, as far as marketing wise and like becoming the author that you want to be, you really have to figure it out. You have to make those really annoying choices of, is this going to work? Is it not going to work? You kind of have to just play with it. And, I could have, luckily this omnibus didn't cost me a whole lot to produce. It was a
Oh
new
yeah.
cover, it was the formatting, and that was it, because the editing was already done, the words
Yeah.
were there. Um, and it was a risk, but it it really paid off. It is one of those things that I will be able to look back on and be like, that's when my career really started to take off.
Hmm. That's
So
amazing.
yeah. You got to take those risks. I know that sometimes people really want to play it safe, uh,
Mm,
but sometimes you just really have to be like, if you feel it, right? If you really feel in your gut that that's the thing, go for it. Don't let anyone talk you out of it. And especially in this business, like, Stephen King said in his, on writing, which I only have read this year, this past year,
I
like,
think it was 2 years ago that I read it. Yeah.
right? I don't think like everyone was like, oh, it's so great. I'm like, all right, let's calm down. But the one thing I did get out of it was, write with the door shut and edit with it open. And I feel like that sentiment works on every decision you make in your business. Make
Mm,
the decision with the door closed and live with the consequences or the gifts that come with it with the door open.
interesting. Yeah, because I think there is in the writing process, and I think what you're saying holds true too, like in the decision-making process for like marketing decisions, business decisions, these strategic, logistical, operational decisions that we're talking about here. There's such thing as too many cooks in the kitchen
Yeah.
because that's when shiny object syndrome comes into play of being like, well, you start doubting yourself. You start second guessing these decisions that you're making. You're starting to second guess the story that you're writing. You're starting to second guess these operational decisions that you're making. But you need to just decide and then tweak,
Yeah, for sure.
see
There there
how it lands.
there have been times where, I've actually been in a situation where I've been like, hey, I really, I'm thinking about trying this thing, and someone really encouraged it, right?
Mm,
And then it failed. And then when I went back to them and was like, oh man, this didn't work out. And they're like, yeah, I didn't think it would. I'm like, all right, well, great, thanks. So it was really at that moment that I was like, you know what? I don't actually think, because I probably wouldn't have taken that risk
mm,
personally if I wouldn't have like expressed it to someone else and they would have encouraged it. I
mm.
probably wouldn't have put myself out there like that. I wouldn't have spent that money, like whatever. Um, because I didn't let it sit with me. I didn't let my gut decide. I let someone else's gut decide and it didn't work out. And I
Man,
yeah, I
those gut
learned my
decisions,
lesson.
like intuition, because it's a science and an art, right?
Is yeah. It's I think when it comes to marketing, you know your book best.
Mm,
And even if you don't know a stitch about marketing, you know what's in your book. And you very much can pull out what you can and relate it to your readers or who you want your readers to be. And you can figure out, it I'm not saying like go in blind, right? Watch other authors, watch what they're doing. Will what they're doing work for you, right?
mm.
Like, a lot of people ask me about the Sins Omnibus and the color changing and stuff like that. And I just, you know, very much wanted to I didn't, but I wanted to ask like, what makes you sure that the color changing pattern
Mm,
will work in your book that isn't 7 books in one package? The
mm,
reason this works, and maybe they just didn't realize it, fully, but the
mm,
reason this book works is because there are 7 individual books and there are 7 individual colors.
mm.
If you were to throw this idea at ACOTAR, the first one,
Sure.
how like you could, right? You could definitely like alternate colors, but why multiple colors, right? You have to question not only what other authors are doing, but how it would actually work for you. Because you can like write shiny object syndrome. We all
So
see,
true.
yeah, we see everyone doing amazing things and like amazing PR boxes. And, I've even seen people do like collaborations with artists and musicians and all sorts of things. But even though those things sound amazing, how would they even translate to what I do? You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
think, I don't mean to like go into marketing blind, but really like evaluate what people are doing that you see and that you like, and try to either come up with something that works for your book or question why you think those things wouldn't work for your book and try to figure out something different that might be better.
Yeah.
So it's a very
Yeah.
individualized journey here. We're all playing a weird game.
Well, it's all about brand
It is, yeah.
at the end of the day. And like you have to stay true to that brand voice
Mhm.
from the writing to the visuals to the execution, like all every step of the process.
Yeah. I would like to hope that my brand is, you know, just doing what I want because of the design eye that I have or the way that my brain works, and that's like how I do my marketing and how my branding works. Um, it is very everyone's brand is individual. So like it's so hard for me. Someone has asked me before, like, what's your branding? Because I'm actually getting new branding done.
Mm,
And
mm,
they've asked me, like, oh, what do you want your logo to be? And I'm like, I don't know. I want it to look like me, not like a
mm.
picture of me. I just want, and luckily the person knows me. And we've had conversations in person and we've met. And so now they do have this like idea of of the person I am. Um, and it's hard. I think it's really hard for authors and people in general to be able to answer that question of, well, what is your brand?
Yeah.
You know, I can say all day that it's morally gray paranormal romance, but I still have to answer the question of what is that,
Yeah.
right? So, uh, even though I very much feel like me as a person, I'm not a brand. My books are. My books are very like you can look at all my books and you know they're a K.L. Morrison book. And I think that's really important. Even if you don't feel as an author, you don't feel like you're a brand, your book should be.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Well, anything you want to add before we start wrapping up?
Nope, I think that's all the ranting I have.
I this has been beautiful. Like chef's kiss all around.
It has been. It's been so fun.
Yeah. Well, this is powerful stuff that we're talking about, audience, and we definitely encourage you to share your own thoughts, feelings, experiences, stories, insights like these. We'd love to know how marketing strategies, branding, writing, producing has impacted you in your own writing careers. And please do let us know if you have any questions about anything that we've discussed. We'd be happy to answer if we've used terms that you're like, what the hell does that mean? Let us know. Special thanks, Elle. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this has been awesome. So please like, comment, subscribe, check out Linktree/Claire for my links. And then where can folks find out more about you?
You can find me on TikTok. I am K.L. Morrison, author on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have my website, klmorrison.com. I'm all over the place. I'm on BookBub, Amazon. I'm very easy to find.
Great, great. And I'll make sure the links are easy to find in the show notes. And until next time, please remember that you all have extraordinary stories to share, and we're rooting for you as you use them to change the world for the better. Take care, everyone.